Russia is having some of the biggest protests in the world right now, with literally thousands of people being arrested in Moscow alone. They protest for the freedom of Alexei Navalny, the Putin and Kremlin opposition leader, but he was just sentenced 3.5 years in prison for defamation charges, whatever that's supposed to mean. Almost 4,000 people have already been arrested in these protests, and now that Navalny is gone, these protests are going to turn even worse. On top of that, Russia is beginning to expel diplomats from countries like Sweden, Germany, and Poland for participating in these protests. So why is the EU saying that there won't be any more sanctions coming to Russia for doing all of this? Basically, that there won't be any consequences. Well, Russia is threatening to stop the multi-billion euro deal about a pipeline going from Russia into Europe if anyone intervenes. And I'm sure it's got nothing to do with that. Nothing whatsoever. I don't know, guys. I had a lot of sugar today, so. In today's video, we're going to take a look at what happens when all of these protests escalate and what consequences will it have for Putin at home and internationally. Welcome to the channel, my name is Soren. Make sure to watch until the end to get a good picture of what's going on. Alright, so in case you guys don't know this, Alexei Navalny is the opposition leader to both Putin and the Kremlin in general in Russia. He returned to Russia recently after having been hospitalized in Berlin in Germany for months and months. He was exposed to this toxic nerve agent called Novichok, typically used by the KGB back in the days. He's claiming that the Kremlin did this to him to silence him and to stop him from speaking out against the Russian government. Now, the Russian government, as soon as Navalny landed in Russia, took him in and arrested him. He's just been given 3.5 years of prison for what they say is defamation. They're saying that you have no proof of saying that we did this to you, so now we're giving you 3.5 years in jail. This all led to these massive, huge protests in all across Russia, but mostly in the major cities like Moscow, leading to at least 4,000 people by now being arrested. And those are just the people being arrested. So you can imagine how many tens of thousands of people are in the streets protesting as well. This right here is the newest development in the story, so take a look at this. Russia expels diplomats from Germany, Poland, and Sweden over Navalny protest claims. Russia says it has expelled diplomats from Germany, Poland, and Sweden amid claims they took part in pro-Alexei Navalny protests. So I do want to be fair and say that technically it's illegal to protest right now in Russia, the same way that it is in the EU and in Europe as well in some countries. The reason is the same, that you have these restrictions during the pandemic lockdowns. But the real reason, and that's the problem here, is that people understand that underneath the facade is the reason that you can protest for the freedom of Alexei Navalny. So the EU is saying that we are contemplating sanctions to put on you guys because you keep cracking down on these Alexander Navalny protests. But Russia is saying back at the EU, you guys are hypocrites because you basically have the same rules. We just are a nation of laws and we just enforce the rules that all of you guys already have in place. So they kind of have an argument, right? Because France and Germany, the leading nations of the EU, have really strict lockdown restrictions. You used to be able to protest freely both in France and Germany in the beginning of the lockdowns, but now you can't anymore. They protested a lot against government overreach, and now they put in curfews so that in France, nationwide, you can't go outside your house from 6 in the evening until 6 in the morning. That's half of the day. So Russia is saying that these nations within the EU, leading the EU, are hypocrites. But there is there's something more to this story that I want to highlight for you guys. Check this out, guys. The move condemned by German Chancellor Angela Merkel as unjustified comes on the day the EU's foreign affairs chief, Josep Borrell, is in Moscow on a 3-day diplomatic visit. So the reason that Germany and the EU are using tough words but will do absolutely nothing against Russia when it comes to these protests is that Russia threatened if any foreign country would intervene in their protest and the whole situation here, they threatened to stop the multi-billion euro deal between Europe as a whole and Russia for this new pipeline exporting natural gas from Russia directly into Europe, specifically into Germany. It's a multi-billion euro deal, and that's why you're seeing them use tough words but no actions, just like Borrell is saying here. He says that EU-Russia relations at lowest level, but no more sanctions for now. Gracefully bowing down before Putin. Speaking of gracefully bowing down to Putin, this Euronews article is reporting that tech giants like Facebook and Twitter have been ordered by Russia to block all publications with calls to demonstrate on the 23rd in these protests, as well as the rest of the protests still going on now, right? So you might be thinking, well, these tech giants, they won't be bowing down to Putin because they're independent and very good people as well, by the way. Take a look at this. In a later statement on Friday, Roskomnadzor said that social media had begun removing calls for children to participate in illegal mass events, aka protests. The watchdog said that TikTok had removed 38% of prohibited content, while VKontakte had taken action on 50% of illegal information. Now, keep an eye on those words, by the way. And Instagram, 17%. Meanwhile, video sharing platform YouTube had stopped distributing 50% of videos calling for young people to join the weekend's rallies, the authorities said. So yesterday, a huge police force was deployed to make sure that the rest of the protests in Moscow were quelled. As this article from the BBC is talking about, I think there's something more going on here that many people underestimate, and it's the fact that Navalny has he's not just a politician anymore. He's become the voice of a lot of people in Russia who are not happy with the way the country is run, with the Putin Kremlin government. Now, a politician is easy to take down because that's just one person. But when someone like Navalny becomes the voice for a lot of people, I think that the Russian government, by obviously deploying all of these police officers and controlling the streets, they don't realize that these protests are probably not going to be quelled by this. You're probably going to inflame more and more people. I don't like seeing this pattern of suppressing protests, not only in Russia, but the rest of Europe as well. People are isolated and locked down, and it's not a good idea to suppress the voice of the people when you're in that state of mind already. Alright guys, thanks for spending your time with me, and remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell as well, because apparently subscriptions doesn't mean that much anymore these days. I'll see you guys in the next video.